Okay, apparently we're live. I'm still struggling with technology and how YouTube works, but I was trying to do this on the one I scheduled for 8 o'clock, and I don't know how to start it. So it starts on that live stream, so I had to start a new one, but there were only two people waiting over there, so hopefully this works out and everyone figures out where I'm at. So while we're waiting to for this to fill up, just like the last live stream I did, I'm gonna edit this later and add notes of what we talk about at each time, and then repost the entire video, cutting out all the silly crap that's inevitably going to happen when you're dealing with the wilds of the internet. So that'll be a little bit shorter, and planning on going for maybe just a little bit over an hour tonight. Trying to do it at 8 o'clock instead of 9. We'll see what happens. Before we get rolling here, I have a couple subjects I want to talk about briefly, but just start out with the patch announcement. I'm still selling patches, Gunfather Milsim patches, look like that. I did order some new ones. I ordered a dark blue one and a gray one, so it looks just like this, but instead of the red, it's dark blue, or it's a gray scale. Just thought people might want some different color options. I think I have about 20 of these left, maybe 15, something like that. I haven't counted recently. I've been selling pretty consistently, probably selling as many overseas as I do here in the States, and I've been getting some photos back with people that have them, and I appreciate the support. You want to get a patch, just look me up, send me an email at gunfathermilsim@gmail.com, or look me up on the Facebook page, Gunfather Milsim. Send me $8 via either Venmo or PayPal, and your address, and I'll get one shipped out to you. And then once you get it, give me a photo, send me a photo with your patch on, displaying your patch with your gear. I'll put it on the Facebook page and on the YouTube section of the community section of my YouTube channel, and blah, blah, blah. I don't make any money on these at all. In fact, I'm actually kind of losing money at the moment for some of them that I got to ship a little farther. So I might be making 30 cents, which really isn't worth my trip to the post office to send them. The issue is they're a little bit too thick because I wanted PVC patches, and apparently that makes it a package when I put it in the envelope. So I got to pay like, I don't know, $2.50, $3 to ship these just in the US, as opposed to like a stamp. So, but I'm going to stick with the PVC because I like them. I think they look good. But if I were to go with like a thinner patch, like a vinyl patch, it would definitely be a lot cheaper to do this and a lot more profitable. But I don't think vinyl looks as cool, so we're not going to do that. You guys in the chat, see if you can light that up. Just me and John Daniels. Additionally, I still want to do these airsoft critique videos. I've done two. One was of some gameplay of mine a couple of years ago, just to show people what I'm talking about. And another one was a team in CQB team that does like speed QB in California. I think it was Airsoft Extreme. I would love to get more videos. I have a lot of people that talk and send me messages like, hey, I'm going to send you some video, but then they never send it. I think maybe they're trying to get me like maybe like the perfect video or the ideal video where they do everything right. And it's really not that kind of party. So if you're waiting to have, if you're not making any mistakes, there's really nothing to talk about. Or if the video is really short, I was kind of hoping to get mount and CQB video that has, warts and all, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. It's not looking at it there to flame anybody. I'm just trying to use video as a teaching tool for other people. And we can comment on it and learn from it. And yeah, Rich Lortez, you can never do everything right. Correct. And if you're afraid to make mistakes, I don't know. I think there's in airsoft, people don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be seen being wrong because everybody wants to, it's 90% aesthetics and everybody wants to look really cool. And which is weird because like 95% of people in airsoft don't know what the hell they're doing, which is fine. Okay. But you really shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. Obviously everybody knows what I do as a profession, as a SWAT officer. I make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes in training all the time, because that's where you're supposed to make mistakes. I make mistakes in the real world operations. Happens from time to time. Happens all the time, actually. And we just kind of learn from them. So if people are afraid to make mistakes, I don't know. I don't understand it. No one expects you to be amazing at this stuff. And I found that no one really likes watching gameplay videos. I've posted several from way back in the day. I stopped posting them because nobody watches them. Nobody cares. And I'm hoping that maybe if I start doing that, if critiquing other people's videos, maybe it'll be a spin on the gameplay video that people actually want to watch, even though it's not my video, it's other people's videos. I don't know. I don't think there's any real world guys that are critiquing airsoft players' gameplay videos out there. If there is, I'm not aware of them. And hopefully that's a little niche market I can work my way into on YouTube. Having a YouTube channel is basically about trying to create content that your viewers want to watch. And I'm always trying to think of new stuff that maybe you guys want to watch. That's the live stream. You told me people wanted to watch this, I wouldn't believe you. Rob drinking whiskey and talking about tactics and shit. Who cares? But apparently some people like to watch it. So here we are. All right. People are chatting. Brooks Euchre. I'll go through my video files and see if I can get you POV video last year. Please do. I would love that. Probably slap it on a Google Drive account, send you an email. Perfect. Yeah, love that. I'm not against outdoor video either. If you got some good woodland play, the problem is outdoor games are just really hard to follow. CQB is a little bit easier just because the view through the camera is so limited, and you can't really tell what the hell is going on in the big picture, and it's just kind of confusing. So it's difficult to comment on as far as what looks good, what looks bad, or what's being effective. Whereas CQB or mount, you kind of get a better idea what the hell's going on. I need to buy a GoPro and the run cam. Yeah. I hate editing video. I don't do it anymore at all. I wouldn't want to get back into editing video. It was a pain in the ass when I just ran a head camera. And I forget even which model I used. This was years ago. But later on, when I started running a gun cam too and trying to link up like what's going on in the head camera with what's going on in the gun camera, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's many hours of editing for a 8-minute video that nobody watches. And honestly, I would watch it, and I'm like the guy that's in it, and I don't even care. It's boring. I don't expect anybody else to want to watch it. It's just not that entertaining. And obviously guys like Norwich and stuff do well on gameplay videos, but I'm bored to tears watching other people's gameplay video. It's not entertaining for me. And I don't think it's entertaining for anybody else, really. Yeah, don't drive and text at the same time. Bad idea. There's really some company is making a small camera that has a rail mount on it that is designed specifically for like shooting, and it's I think like $200. I'm trying to remember. This is horrible to talk about, but I don't know what the hell the product is. I've been thinking about giving that one a try, but then the thought of going down that path of editing all that video again, that honestly, who cares? No one wants to watch it, and I don't really want to make it either. So yeah, not going to do it. So got some people in here. We can start chatting. One of the first subjects I kind of wanted to talk about is video games and airsoft and the relation between the two. Let me try to move the computer a little bit. So I am garbage at online video games. I have an Xbox, but I don't play Call of Duty anymore. I did for a while. I'm not good at it. Okay, I'm horrible at it. I can enjoy video games without being good at them, though. I'm that guy. If I get my 0.8 kill to death, I'm happy. I can have fun. So if I'm not the guy when it comes to video games, but it would be ignorant of me to not acknowledge the fact that there's a really heavy connection between video games and airsoft. I mean, it's thick. In fact, I think probably 80% of the people who get into airsoft kind of start their interest in airsoft via video games, via first person shooters, because that's what gets them interested in using cover and weapons and shooting at each other. And I think that is really what is driving most of the popularity of airsoft is video games and first person shooters. I think that's good and bad. Um, it's bad because video games are obviously not a realistic example of what moving around in a real space with your real body is like. The two do not exactly coincide. I think a lot of problems is people like want to recreate a game mode that is fun in a video game like domination, and we're going to play it in airsoft, and it doesn't always translate quite precisely. The problem is that you're coming from a background like video games that really doesn't have any basis in reality for tactics, as far as running and gunning and halo jumping around corners and all that crap. That doesn't really work in the real world. And I think people come into the airsoft from that background thinking what works in the video game is going to work in a real world scenario, and it just doesn't. And I think a lot of people are kind of afraid to admit that. Adam Mark, Battlefield 3 is what got me into airsoft. Yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of people. Kobe, I suck at controller, but the PC, I'm doing okay. I don't have a gaming PC that's worth the shit. I'm really garbage at video games. My Xbox gamer tag is Gunfather 6. I mean, it's not nothing. I'm not very creative. And right now, lately, I've been playing a lot of what the hell is that game called? It's the Netherlands game. It's like a survival game. It's been out for like 2 years, but I just found it like a few months ago, and it'll come to me here in a minute. But Vigor, Vigor, that it's kind of like a survival, kind of slow first-person shooter where you just kind of sneak around a lot. Actually, it's third person, and you it's a lot of crawling around. It's like a survival game, and is that a scope glint? And you get shot. Oh yeah, apparently it was a scope glint. I dig that game. I dig it a lot. Once again, not particularly good at it, but I have a lot of fun playing it with some of my buddies. Yeah. G Police. I also stink at most games. Just glad I'm good at airsoft. Squad and Rising Storm were fun. Yeah, I don't know. I don't play either one of those. I have also with the Oculus 2 headset. Girlfriend bought it for me. There's a lot of fun games on that. Like what is it? Pistol Whip. Pistol Whip's my jam right now. I don't think it's very effective for training or anything. It's basically worthless for that, but it is awfully entertaining. It makes you feel like John Wick. But those virtual reality games where you like move around inside the game, Onward is one of them. My mind can't do that. Once I start moving around in the virtual reality space, I get sick. I get nauseous. So those are a no-go for me. But some people really like them. So, but I think Brooks, they want the experience of being that guy, and that's how I got into airsoft. Yeah, and I think that's how most people get into the sport. It's difficult. Hey, Whiskey. It's difficult for me being a guy with a real world background and then jumping into airsoft, and most of the people are there because they learned from video games, which is cool. But there's a real we're kind of coming at it from two different directions, and it's difficult sometimes for guys like me who got inspired to do airsoft because of real world training and wanted like some sort of venue to do cheap force on force training. And then there's all these guys who got into it because of video games, and it's just two entirely different directions. And there's not a lot of common ground there oftentimes, but the common ground is we both enjoy the sport and both enjoy loving airsoft. And that honestly was kind of the reason I started a YouTube channel in the first place. Is the goal of my channel is to bridge the gap between real steel guys and airsoft players, because honestly the real steel community, there's a lot of misconceptions about airsoft players, and some of it's justified, some of it's not, but they really have a lot in common, I think. And I just want to kind of break down that wall between them a little bit more. I have no misconceptions. All my airsoft friends are not going to start hanging out with my real world friend, my real steel friends, but maybe we can get rid of some of the stigma surrounding airsoft with these guys. Rich Lortez. I got into airsoft after being retired from, and it moved out of my way. I can't see it. I got into airsoft after being retired from law enforcement because I missed the tactical aspect of the job. Well, Rich, and obviously, Rich, I'm a law enforcement officer too. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's the best force on force training you can get on the cheap. Sims is a little bit better, but it doesn't have quite the range. But Sims, you don't get the reps. I mean, I can't stress enough that for force on force training, if done correctly, you really can't beat airsoft for the price. Let's be honest, everybody's not going to run out and buy simunitions. They're just too damn expensive, or UTM bolt, which is $300 and then pay like 80 cents a round. You know, that's a really expensive day. And honestly, they don't have the range of an airsoft gun, but you're essentially training with a real rifle. So there's that. That's kind of cool. Still doesn't have the recoil of a real rifle, but is what it is. Kobe. I think airsoft games are just as good as the players are. Most times players just do what they want and don't follow the rules and killing the game with it. I don't know where you play, Kobe, but maybe it's a problem where you're at. I don't find it being a problem where I'm at as far as players doing what they want and not following the rules. Where I'm at, everybody pretty much follows the rules. That's the norm. We don't have a lot of issues with rules and hit calling and whatnot. But I think some places can be toxic. I mean, there's a lot of toxic communities out there, a lot of, fields and different groups, maybe different. Because on one hand, airsoft is airsoft no matter where you go, same kind of people. On the other hand, there are definitely groups that are a little more aggressive or just have a different kind of flavor to them. I was on a Facebook group for Airsoft Arizona for a while, and for the most part, I just lurked there. And Arizona has a huge airsoft community. I mean, just massive compared to here. It's probably 10 times the size of my local community. And there's like 6 different airsoft places within an hour, all indoor or, outdoor speed QB fields. And I tell you, it's aggressive. I mean, you can see that in the, people like, oh, I like this field and all the other fields suck. And it's definitely a more aggressive community than I'm used to, which is kind of weird. But I try to. Our community's not terribly large, so I'm of the opinion that all airsoft is good airsoft, and we're too small a community to make enemies in it and say that I don't want to be with that group or this group. Most of the players don't do as they follow rules. Ben Tam, what do you think about people smoking pot before or during games? I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and over half the field smokes. Happy 420. Okay, whatever. Some states it's legal, some states it's not. My state is not. I don't think it's wise. I don't think it's smart to drink before a game. I used to have a guy, back when I put on games, I never had to make the rule that you can't drink alcohol during a game because I thought it was just understood. I didn't think anybody would possibly be that dumb to show up and drink. But there was this guy that he just thought it was the coolest thing. And he was like 23 or 24. He just started drinking. And he thought it was the coolest thing ever that he could put a tall boy in his magazine pouch for his AK magazines and walk around the field with a beer and drink a beer while he's playing airsoft. He just thought he was the hot shit for doing it. And I'm like, you're an idiot. And this landowner, this private landowner, is cool enough to let us play airsoft on his property, not concerned about liability at all, and that's great. And because you selfishly want to look like a jackass, you're endangering the place where we play, because the landowner isn't going to be very fond of the fact that this guy's walking around playing beers or drinking beers while he's playing airsoft on his field. It's just, why would you endanger everybody's game? Not to mention then you're getting drunk, and I mean, there's driving issues, and the guy was an idiot. So shortly after that game, I had to make a rule. Hey, you can't drink alcohol while you play airsoft here. And then he stopped coming. because he liked alcohol more than he liked airsoft because he's a drunk. So story over. So yeah, I don't think substances and airsoft is a good idea. What you do in your home is your business. Whiskey's Gaming Lounge. There are tactics which went from video games, tactics, sports, airsoft, IPS to LEO. Pieing doors and fighting from a doorway has basis there. Yes. Yes. The way that people clear rooms in video games, which is weird that it developed this way, but that is more akin to threshold assaults than it is stack and flow method, where we're going to run into rooms. Why? Because people know that when you run into rooms in video games, you get slaughtered. Why? Because there's a prepared defender. There's somebody waiting and watching the door and waiting for you to come in, and they're going to win that game 9 times out of 10, Halo jump or not. They're going to win that game, that reaction game, and they're going to kill you. Which is weird to me that people in they play Call of Duty, right, or whatever game, and they do pieing the door and threshold assaults because it works. Okay, they don't run in the room. You take those same people and you take them to an airsoft game, and all of a sudden, like a CQB place, they're all of a sudden, okay, we got to stack and go into rooms because that's how it's done. It's like, no, you idiot. You already solved the problem. You already did it right in the video game. And then you come here in a quote unquote, simulation, a real world simulation that is airsoft. And now you're going to go back to something that doesn't work. Do the exact same thing you do in the video game. You'll be successful, minus the Halo jump, because none of us have, 4-foot verticals. Brooks, it's a good way to get people into training. The people need to look to each other to help each other. Yep. I got to catch up. I went from video games to airsoft, then to real steel. Yeah, and I think a lot of people do that. A lot of people make the leap, that exact progression. I think it's very common in the sport, from video games to airsoft to real steel. I think that's very common. And fuck, real steel is really expensive. God damn, it's expensive now with the price of ammo and everything. It's just a brutally expensive sport to get into. And understand that where you say, like, if you hear me saying negative things about the airsoft community, I don't, that's minor. It takes all kinds to do the sport. We all know there's some weird dudes that do airsoft. It is what it is. There's some weird dudes that do real steel and 3-gun and all that competition, all that ball of wax. There's some creepy, weird people in that sport too. So both sides have it. I mean, we got a lot of 300-pound, very overweight, super shooter Navy SEAL types in the real steel world as well. So, they're deadly. Shoot a piece of paper. But the piece of paper never shoots back, and an airsoft, it shoots back. So that's the advantage. Yeah, okay. So moving on, because I'm not going to spend all night talking about weed and airsoft because I really don't give a shit. But and don't feel bad if I skipped your topic. There's topics people are going to bring up that chances are I've already covered in a previous live stream, and I'm trying to keep the content kind of fresh. For example, I don't want to hear any more about gas blowback rifles. I think my opinion on gas blowback rifles is well documented, but the people who love them are like terribly passionate about them and just keep wanting to talk about them. So yeah, if you bring up gas blowback rifles, I'm just going to ignore it because beating the dead horse. Let's see here. Let's talk about airsoft teams and creating a good airsoft team and opinions on airsoft teams. So let's see here. I started playing in 2008-ish, late 2008, and I think I created an airsoft team mid-2009. So I'd only been playing airsoft about 8 months, and I got together with another guy who's a Marine, Gulf War I vet, Vance. He's like, in fact, if you look at the video that I just posted about the 5 worst decisions game organizers make, the 5 biggest mistakes, the guy next to me in the photo there is Vance. Okay, Gulf War I vet. He's like 52 years old, but he's like still like brutally fit and jacked, and he's just the age does not affect him. Hell of an airsoft player. Fortunately, he moved away, but him and I created our airsoft team called Fire Team 6, and stop whiskey. And we kind of wanted to focus on communication tactics. I don't want to say real world tactics because that's kind of getting in the deep water, but stressing fitness, communication tactics, and just raw teamwork formations. Suppressive fire, advancing on people. Working as a team. I think a lot of teams nowadays, if your first question you're asking when you're trying to start up an airsoft team is, hey, what kind of gun do you have? And when I'm looking for a person to join our team, I don't really give a shit about what kind of gun they have. I don't care. I'm more concerned about their abilities. What kind of player are they? Are they aggressive? Do they take instruction well? Are they cool-minded? Are they a hothead? If you're a hothead and you're going to yell at other players and start shit, and you're not going to represent the team well, you're not going to be part of our team, because I just don't have time for that. And when you're out there wearing my team's patch, you're representing us, and everybody's going to, if you lose your temper and make yourself look stupid yelling at somebody, whether you're right or wrong or whatever, you're going to embarrass the team. And I just don't want that. I would rather have a mediocre player who represents us well, personality wise and professionalism wise, than an amazing player who just flies off the handle every time he thinks somebody isn't calling their hits. Don't have time for that. So anyway, we developed our team, and we have a lot of members come and go over the years, but we keep about 9 active at any given time. 9 to kind of 11 is kind of like where I like to sit, because that usually gives me about 4 or 5 people showing up to our pickup games. And at an op, we can usually pull a team of 8 or 9 to an op if we have enough notice. My team is generally older people, and I don't like saying my team like I'm the owner of it, because I'm not. It's our team kind of thing. But it's generally older players now, guys in their 30s, or in my case, their early 40s. We have a couple younger ones, but for the most part, it's older, more mature players. And that's my opinion on teams. My opinion on them has kind of matured over the years. I used to be a lot more elitist because I was young and aggressive and stupid. And I wanted more aggressive players and more elite players, if you will. But as I've matured, I found out it's more important to have people on your team who you really get along with and can have a beer with after the game. You're going to have a better time that way. So let's see. Grenades, I'll get back to that. So cold approaching landowners, we'll get back to that. My team falls into traps so easily when I tell them to think, they get stubborn. Yeah, it's a thinking man's game. People don't like to think that, but tactics is like chess, the thinking man's game. You look like you're from the Marines, dude. I'm not a Marine. I was never in the armed forces. I'm just a SWAT jock. I was going to join the military, and then this is going way back, but after 9/11, I was in college and I was going to join the military, and everybody's got I was going to join the military story, so I hate even telling it. But I applied for the police department in May of 2001. I took the test just to take it, just to get experience taking the test. I think one of my friends was taking it. I was like, oh, what the hell, I'll take along. And I even forgot I took it. I took the physical like a month later, and then I kind of blew it off, and I didn't even think, totally forgot about it. 9/11 happens. I was going to join the military as soon as the semester was over. And in mid-November, the city calls me and says, hey, do you still want to be a cop? And I compared the 2 paychecks, and the city pays better. And selfish, but yeah, I took the real job. Not that military is not a real job, but it was the first, law enforcement was the first real paycheck job I'd ever been offered. Before that, I was just a fighter. I was a personal trainer, but I was also a Muay Thai, and I was a boxer. So I was a fighter. And the rest is history. I took to law enforcement like a duck to water, and then kind of fell in love with shooting. I'd never fired really a gun, anything other than a 22 before I became a cop at age 23 in 2001. And then I learned how to shoot and figured out I like SWAT and tactics, and the rest is history. And here I am 19 years later, and I'm a firearms instructor for our police department. I teach people how to do SWAT I'm one of the instructors for the SWAT school. I teach carbine courses. A sniper. I prefer the term precision marksman because law enforcement snipers don't really crawl around and do all that, crawling around in the dirt, stalking stuff. But we do build hides and we do a lot of observation and overwatch. So kind of off the subject. So no, I'm not in the Marines. Do you go with your team to big events like Milsim West? We do not do Milsim West because we are in the Midwest and it's a really long travel to go to a Milsim West game. So we do more anything around Kansas City. We like hitting those. I've hit a lot of when they had ops lately because of COVID. We don't have a lot of them. But let's see here. God, we did one in Wisconsin. Milsim events. We've done a lot of those down in Oklahoma. I was going to do a Milsim events in Arizona, but it got canceled for COVID. So we do more Milsim events because they're more in the Midwest. Or not Milsim events, American Milsim. Yeah, like American Milsim. I've never done Milsim West. I've heard, that whole weekend thing where you camp the whole time. That's probably not my cup of tea. I do this for recreation, and I could see there being some fun in that. But I like having a time when I can, hang out with my friends and drink beer around a fire. I like having that time in my weekend of airsoft. So the hey, we're going to be locked on for 40 hours. I guess I wouldn't mind trying it once, but in my mind, I think I prefer having, hey, we're going to play from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're going to index, and then we're going to have beers around the fire. And the next day we're going to do 10 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m. And then we're going to drive home. That's more my cup of tea. Do your SWAT friends play airsoft with you? No. And when I first started playing, I played airsoft previous to getting on SWAT, just barely. I started airsoft in 09. I got on SWAT in May of 09. So I'd only been doing airsoft for like 6 months, and it was kind of like a secret. Like you didn't tell anybody, like, shh, you don't want anybody to know that you play airsoft. And over the years, they gave me a lot of shit for it, but SWAT guys give other SWAT guys shit for everything. So that's going to happen. I think it took a long time for them to come around to the fact that it's not the horrible thing that they think it is. But them accepting it is a long way from them coming and playing with us. And I've told them that, if I took our SWAT team, which is a very experienced team, an extremely experienced and extremely busy team, and put them in a woodland scenario playing airsoft, I'm confident that our team would get massacred. Would get absolutely massacred because we don't do woodland stuff. I'm like the woodland guy because I play airsoft. If we take our SWAT team and we put them in a CQB field, I am confident our team would just destroy your average airsoft player, just because that's our bread and butter, using angles and communicating, and it's just what they do. And I think we'd absolutely dominate. But in the woods, which is a different game, we'd get murdered, and they know that. I mean, they would acknowledge that if I asked them, hey guys, how do you think we do in the woods? They say, oh, we get killed. So. In fact, when we do, it's rare. Every couple of years, we'll do a day of woodland training, and I'm inevitably the bad guy. And we're using UTM rifles, and UTM rifles don't have near the range that airsoft. They have like a third of the range that airsoft does. And so inevitably, I'll be the bad guy, and they got to come look for me. So it's like 15-1, but so it's not designed to be a fair fight like airsoft is, but law enforcement doesn't do fair fights, and SWAT doesn't do fair fights. We stack the deck in our favor, and that's why we're victorious. So anyway, I was kind of getting down a rabbit hole, but the point is, usually I can take out 3 or 4 of them before they get me, but we haven't done it in a while. I feel we're going to team C. Don't need it for those individuals. Dopamine hit for those individuals. I'm way behind on this chat. I'm sorry, fellas. Have you ever played Black Ops in Bristol, Wisconsin? No. The last game I played in Wisconsin, in fact, the only game I played in Wisconsin was I forget the hell it was called. It was at an insane asylum, a big, like 5-story insane asylum. It was a huge facility. It was awesome. It was like 4 or 5 buildings, and One of them was just a huge 5-story deal. I did a video on it, a review of it, and it was a really excellent op. I had a blast. Definitely worth the drive. Gamble 1080. Appreciate you hooking me up with a patch at a recent op at CJ's. Hopefully, it will help the scene grow in Nebraska. What were your thoughts on the event? CJ's event. Well, let's talk about that. So, yes, gave you a patch because I don't make any money on them anyway. I have no problem giving people patches at events. So, was it 2 weeks ago now? We did a game at CJ's paintball field near Lincoln, Nebraska, which is south of where I live. Operation Homefront is what they called it. Now, it was a one-day milsim, so it's kind of like a mini milsim, I think is what they called it. But I kind of like one-day milsims. I do. Because usually your Sunday, your second day of play on a weekend milsim isn't really as good anyway, because a lot of people go home if they're not doing well. A lot of people got to go home for work or whatever, for travel. So usually that second day of any op is just not really that great. And whoever wins the op is usually which faction wins is picked on by the bulk of it is on Saturday anyway. So rather than, it's a lot easier for me to do a one-day op and just lose one day of my weekend than do a full weekend op where it's usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's a lot for a dad with kids, and custody issues and all that crap. So I really like one-day ops. That particular op was a good op. It's a paintball field, so the field's divided into like 3 different basic fields, and that we just had the run of the whole place. So they combined all the fields to make a pretty large area. I think it's about 80 acres, maybe not quite that much. So it's big, but it's not massive. I think there were 70 players, if I recall, but it was a good number. It was a very busy game. No shortage of shooting. I like the missions. I posted some pictures on my Instagram and I think on the Gunfather Milsim Facebook page. I ran my DMR. I signed my platinum. It worked great. Oddly enough, it chronoed hot, which I thought was weird because I chronoed it at the same at CJ's like a month earlier and it was dead on. And that was when there was an airsoft player running the chrono. And now because of the paintball field, they were using some of the paintball staff, and a paintball staff guy was running the airsoft chrono. And I think that was a problem. But because he's like, oh, this is hot. And I'm like, I don't think you're doing it right. But you want to be that guy arguing with the guy running the chrono. So I had to, cut a spring and try it again and got it where it's supposed to be. So my gun sounded horrific. It shot fine, but it sounded really ugly when it was shooting. I still got to check it on my own micro. I haven't had a chance to check my chrono to see how low it really is. If I had to guess, I went from 450. I was right on this. I was at 450 with 0.2s on the nose. I probably dropped down to 425 or 430 or something like that. But still, it performed great. Had a good game. One of the issues they had was the command element on the other team made a poor tactical choice. And instead of trying to control the field, he decided that he was just going to control his little corner of the field and defend it because he was by like the town. It's kind of a built-up town area. It's kind of got a big, plywood town is basically what it is. And he decided he was going to protect that, which is fine and all. But when all the objectives are in the rest of the field and you're conceding 80% of the field to the other team without firing a shot, we're going to get all those objectives. We're going to find all that stuff, and the game's going to be very easy for us to rack up points. We're also going to be able to get angles on you and basically surround you in your little corner. It ended up not being a very good strategy for them, and they quickly were so behind on points that they couldn't come back out. So that was a problem with the op, but that's not really the game planner's fault. It was just maybe a poor choice on that guy's part, but I understand what he was thinking. He just didn't maybe look closely enough at how points are scored at the op. So, but it worked well for us. One particular mission, there was a downed pilot mission where one of the admins actually played the downed pilot, and his name's Dre. He's a good dude, but he's a Marine and he's big. I mean, he's heavy, and he looks he's a stocky dude. He's not that. How to describe Dre? For those of you guys that know him, I mean, he's athletic, but he's big. I mean, he's like, I wouldn't call him fat. He's just big. He's just a heavy dude. I swear to God, he weighs 300 pounds. So there's a stretcher, and you gotta put him on the stretcher, and then we had to carry him from one end of the field to the other while getting shot at. And he had to have 4 people carrying the stretcher. And I like to think I'm pretty strong. I'm pretty fit. Jesus Christ, carrying Dre. God, it must have been a quarter mile, which isn't that far in the grand scheme of things. That kicked my ass. That absolutely just crushed me. We had to take several breaks. It was tough. So, but overall, good op, great op. Had a lot of fun at it. Hope those guys do more of them in the future. It was Origins Airsoft. It's both a team and a group that puts on games. That's who put it on. So kind of covered that. Yeah, great event, great people. We have a real good community here. Which do you prefer, unlimited respawn games or no respawn games? Why? Which do I prefer, unlimited respawn games or no respawns, and why? That's a very good question. I would say unlimited respawns is definitely superior, because when you have a no respawn game, there's no motivation to move and capture objectives. Whenever the motivation for an airsoft game is just survival, everybody's going to hunker down and sit, and no one's going to move. And it also kind of increases people's motivation to cheat. I hate to bring that up because I don't think hit calling is a really widespread issue, but it does. If you get hit and you're out, and if you get killed early in a game and there's another, you're going to sit, for 30 minutes waiting for everybody else to finish up the game. That's not really cool. And that's kind of motivating that person not to play. And once again, when you're a game organizer, as I said in this last video I made, you're providing a service. You're providing a product, and that product is an entertainment and airsoft game, and that is not a very good product. Hey, you got killed early. Sorry, you got to sit out here for 30 minutes to 45 minutes while everybody else finishes the game. I know I wouldn't want to do that. So I definitely think respawn rules and good medic rules are a must-have in most games, just to keep people in contact as much as possible. So, and I don't like medic rules. I don't like the whole, where you can, in my opinion, if you're going to drag a player because they're down, you can drag them, but you have to drag them. The rule we have is they can use one appendage to help. So if I grab your vest and I'm pulling you to move you, you can kick with one leg to help me drag you. I don't believe in I can go up and grab your hand and we can tra-la-la down the field, and that's moving a wounded player. That's horse shit. So, but the medic rules, as far as I don't like the whole, we're going to simulate using a tourniquet by taking a Velcro band and putting it on your arm. That's not a tourniquet. That's not even close to a tourniquet. So let's not pretend it's training. Or simulation. It's a game mechanic, and it's a game mechanic designed to keep people in contact more, which is cool, which is what we want. I do think it would be cool maybe to use real tourniquets in airsoft, or some sort of modified tourniquet, but instead of cranking it down, you just turn it once or twice and then, put the windlass down, lock it in place. I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be good training for people, and it takes a little bit longer. And then there would be a training value to it, especially if you start the game by teaching people how to do it for real and then go forward from there. Outdoor field versus indoor. Oh, geez, you have lots of questions. I'm way behind. My team leader says we do better with less leadership, less input. Strangely, it seems to work somehow. Yeah, if you got a good team that works together, you don't need a lot of leadership input. On my team, my real world team, we don't have a lot of, when we're doing an operation, there's very little chatter from the command officers. If the command does their job right, training you and, outfitting you and putting together a tactical plan, there doesn't really need to be a lot of adjustment. There shouldn't be. If our command is on our channel, something's gone terribly wrong. Outdoor field versus indoors. I prefer outdoor. I prefer woodland. We don't really have an indoor field here right now. I actually prefer mount to outdoor, just because I don't get a lot of opportunity to do it outside of work. But I love outdoor. I absolutely love outdoor. What is your average kill to death ratio? That varies. It depends on who I'm playing against and what's going on. 3-1 is typical at a weekend pickup game. Sometimes 2-1, 3-1, maybe a little higher. CQB, that varies a bit too. I can usually get 2-1, sometimes 3-1 in CQB, depending on who I'm playing. Also, depending on who I'm playing against. If I'm playing against guys who don't know what they're doing, either airsoft or real world, they just don't have a lot of experience, that's going to go way up. But who gives a shit, honestly? So I don't know. Maybe if you thought it was 10-1, it's not. So and there's days where I'm just having a shit day. We've all been there, or I'm struggling to get 1-1. I'm just we've all been there. Get a kill, get killed, get a kill, and you go back and forth. You feel like you're in a goddamn shooting gallery. I definitely have days like that, but 2 to 3-1 is more common. Whiskey. Law enforcement as a whole is slow to change the new training tools. Sims were all the rage in 2000s. Airsoft is slowly taking over because it's cheaper and provides 90% of realism in Sims. Sort of. I know my department is not doing airsoft pretty much in any capacity. The only person doing airsoft in my department is me, and that's for classes that I teach. Like I teach a ballistic shield class, and I use airsoft in that class. But if the sims are available or the UTM rounds are available from the department, I will use UTMs instead of airsoft, just because they hit with a little more punch, and there's the bang. Well, there's not much of a bang with them, but it's a little more something hitting that bunker. I want people getting comfortable hiding behind that ballistic shield and using it for cover. I shouldn't say hiding, but using it for cover effectively. I prefer UTMs also, because then you're using your actual weapon that you're using at work. You just switch out the bolt and use the UTM rounds, and it's a lot more effective training. And airsoft, let's be honest, is high maintenance. They break often, and they require not a ton of maintenance, but they do require some maintenance. And law enforcement agencies are garbage at maintaining any tools. The Remington 870 is the most reliable shotgun on the planet, in my opinion. Our department breaks them all the time. It's the most reliable gun in the world. We break them. So they're a lot more reliable and robust than a damn AEG. So, God, I think reliability is the big thing that's holding back airsoft from being used as a legitimate law enforcement training tool. You were going to guess that my kill to death is 8-1? Wow, that's generous. 8-1? Fuck. That's a lot. I mean, even on a really, really good day. Jesus. That'd be yeah, fuck it. No one cares. I don't know what Big Bone is. Must be something. Is he the MMG gunner? You guys must be talking amongst yourselves. What's your opinion as a game organizer? I don't really do anymore, on FPS limits being higher for support gunner. I like it, Whiskey. I like the support gunner being able to go up to 450. That support gunner should be like the shit. I mean, it should be something that if I put a support gun in the right position on the field where I can hold down several lanes or control a large area of the field, it should be an absolute game changer. And I like that. Back before we went to semi-auto, like back in the day, everybody could shoot full auto with an AEG. And so there was really no reason to go with the support gun, because who cared? And no one cared. And even the full auto AEGs pretty much made the snipers and the DMRs to a lesser degree kind of irrelevant. So when we switched, because the volume of fire just it imbalanced everything. So when everybody started switching to semi-auto on the AEGs, that made the other classes relevant. The sniper was relevant. The DMR was very relevant. And of course, the support gunner, which used to be 400, now it bumped to 450. Now the support gunner is king. And I like that. What I don't like is when I'm trying to play a game and all the support gunners are on one side, especially when it's the other side that I'm not on. That makes for a long day. When you're hiding behind a piece of cover and you're just hearing it get chewed up, and I'm coming back with plink plink. That's not fun. Not fun when they know where you're at. Whiskey. The State Academy and my department are almost entirely airsoft. We did some sims in the academy, but mostly airsoft. I mean, if the state patrol has embraced airsoft, more power to them. I haven't heard anything about that. God, they're just high maintenance. The other problem is the way that agencies and law enforcement agencies acquire equipment. Like, for example, I can't go to Evike and order 10 whatever, 10 airsoft guns. I have to buy airsoft guns from an approved vendor, and there's like 3 that the city council approves or whatever. Somebody's texting me, and I have to use one of those vendors. And you go to those vendors, and if they have airsoft guns, they're shit, and they're going to cost twice as much as the same airsoft gun would on Evike, because that's how governments buy stuff. So it's just, you can't even get out of that hole of how they buy stuff. It's going to be shit, and they're going to pay too much for it. And that's part of the problem with airsoft. That's another problem with airsoft and law enforcement agencies is they're buying shitty guns and they're paying way too much for them. And then I would bring like my personal airsoft gear to show them, and they're like, wow, this thing's awesome. Well, yeah. How much was this? It was cheaper than what you paid for your plastic piece of shit there. It's not quite LPEGs, but I mean, they're using, early clone Echo ones. So not a good way to go. State Patrol, same building, wrong academy. Rezik 1. My buddies and I are new to airsoft. We played at our local spot about 5-ish times, but this weekend is a private event that we chose to pass on. Any tips, advice for bigger events for new players? Bigger events for new players. I wouldn't be intimidated by bigger events. I mean, there's not better players at bigger events. That's a misconception. There might be some guys with some better guns, or better guns are more common. But if you know your basics of basic formations, skirmish line, how to operate in a skirmish line, basics how to use a radio and using cover, and you understand the range of your gun, that's a lot of it, is understanding the range of your gun, your effective range, and only shoot at things that you can hit, you'll do fine. You'll do just fine. Just in a large event, the big thing is you have to pay particular attention to the chain of command, the squad structures, because a lot of times they make you sign up for squads ahead of time. They should, or a faction, and really pay attention to the rule set, because rules can change a little bit from op to op, and the uniforms. Don't be the guy showing up in the wrong uniform. If your team can't wear camo, don't wear camo. And there's always guys that screw it up, and it just pisses me off because it's pretty basic stuff. I just think it's a lack of. They can't say they didn't know the rules. They're posted. I think they just don't care. I think it's just mental laziness. They just don't give a shit. At this last op I did last week, there was a guy, we were the civilian side. That's why I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And you could see there was a guy that showed up on our team wearing full camo. And the only rule for our team is one goddamn rule: don't wear camouflage. And he's wearing camouflage. I don't know. I think it's disrespectful to the organizers. It's disrespectful to the other team. And you're going to go around wearing the other team's camo and shooting them. They're going to be like, what the hell? I thought you were on my team. It's a legitimate complaint. One thing that was cool, though, that they did in this op is everybody got an armband, either a blue or a red one, which kind of made the uniforms irrelevant. But, hey, you got a big, we were red, so we had a big red armband on, which I thought, solved the problem with that idiot wearing camouflage. I don't know. You can't tell me the guy didn't have a pair of jeans at home. I just don't believe that. Brutally cunning, brutal. Best. Brutally cunning or cunningly brutal? I'd say, yeah, I think brutally cunning is a better way to go. Okay, Joshua. What do you think of a DMR? I think there's an issue with them since we have some kids running and gunning with 450 FPS. They tend to forget it's a DMR and start using it as an AR. Yes, I like DMRs. Currently, I'm running the Sima Platinum SR25. I used to run AEGs a lot more at the sub 400. As I've gotten more veteran, older, I can't keep up and run and gun in the front like I used to. So I've been switching over to DMR for the range advantage. Where I played DMR, at least it used to be, and they kind of backed off on this and they let people play it that probably shouldn't. DMR and sniper was a privilege, not a right. And basically you had to earn the right. You couldn't show up the day one, nobody know you, and run a sniper or DMR. They wouldn't let you. because there is that longer engagement distance. And for safety, it is a big responsibility, and you can't trust people that don't know what the hell they're doing. So that's definitely a problem if a kid is running that higher FPS, or, God forbid, running an HPA with 0.32s at 450, but he's fucked with it, so it's really more than that. That's a problem. You can't have that. You really got to watch those DMR players. But now the places we play now, I don't really think they're as careful. It's not really a privilege anymore, and anybody can show up and run a DMR if they want to. Thing about the DMR is you got to run a handgun. I think running a handgun's a waste of time. For the most part, I do it when I have to, when I run a sniper or DMR, and also because I want things to be consistent with how I train with at work. And at work, I carry a handgun when I run a rifle, so I got to do the same thing in airsoft. Having said that, I never transition. It's very rare that I'm in a position to transition in an airsoft game. In CQB, it comes up very rarely, very, very rarely. It does happen. Sometimes it's easier on a tight corner to switch to a pistol, but it's not common. Having said that, at the game that op I just did 2 weeks ago, there was one point where we were very close to their base/spawn, and we were allowed to attack it, which I thought was stupid, but whatever. It was near the end of the game. And I got too close to the base that I was inside the med of my DMR, so I transitioned to my pistol, and I got 3 kills in about 5-10 seconds with my handgun, my airsoft pistol, which is probably the same number of kills that I'll get with that handgun in the next 2 years. And I got them in 5 seconds. It just doesn't come up very often. But then here I am at this game 2 weeks ago, and I got 3 in a very short period of time. So maybe I'm full of shit, but I just don't like using the airsoft pistols. Some guys are real passionate about them. Okay. So, but yeah, DMR is a responsibility now, right? I did want to talk about DMRs tonight a little bit, so we'll stick to that a little bit. I was going to talk about best DMR platform. I like the AR-10s. I like the SR-25s. When I first started playing, the first DMR I had was a G&G veteran, and it actually belonged to Whiskey, who's in the chat right now. And it was a full wood DMR with a scope, and he had a horrible scope on it. I had to upgrade to a better scope. And then I switched from a full length. I bought a SOCOM 16, and I switched out the barrel with the shorter barrel, and I switched out the wood stock with a plastic stock. And that gun was the best damn performing gun I've ever owned. I foolishly sold it to a player several years ago. He refused to sell it back to me. I wish he would, because it was the best gun I've ever had. The problem with M14s, and the irony is I got one sitting right here. The irony or the bad thing about them is you're always gonna have magazine issues. There's the high caps work great in them. They work awesome. It's hard to find good quality M14 mid caps that feed flawlessly every time. That was my big hang up. And being a Milsim guy, I like playing with mid caps, and I just could never get a mid cap loadout that worked well and fed all the time. I could find high caps. High caps are great. The G&G high caps, I'd have 2 of them for the M14. Just run 2 all day, you're fine. But God, I don't know what it is. I've worked on a lot of gearboxes. I've never opened up a gearbox in the M14. I don't know what it's a version. Whiskey, you can jump in and tell me here. What version is the M14 gearbox? And you look at it and it looks really foreign. It doesn't. Version 2 and 3 don't look that different from each other, but the version whatever M14 gearbox is weird. I've never been brave enough to open it up and mess with it. But I think it's the hop-up unit. They just perform really well. But you don't see them anymore. The M14, the Airsoft M14 has kind of died. It's just gone away, and now everybody's running, SR25s. I'd like to maybe try a SVD, see if that works well. There's probably not a lot of support for them, though. I do think if you're going to run a DMR, it shouldn't be – if you're going to run an M4, it should be a long-barreled M4, like an M16, like at least a 16-inch barrel or an 18. I just think you're better off running a proper 308, gun version of a gun. I know in airsoft is all irrelevant, but recently I acquired this. This is a G&G SOCOM 16. Apparently this used to belong to me about 1,000 years ago, and I sold it to a kid cheap, and he got out of airsoft recently and asked me if I wanted it back, and he gave it to me. I don't think he ever played with the damn thing because it appears to be in new condition, but I don't remember selling it to him, and if I did, it was probably at least 8 years ago. So for all I know, this thing has been sitting unused for 8 years. I haven't shot it yet. Comes with the scope rail on it already, which is, I mean, it looks great. I don't need another project gun. I currently have 4 airsoft guns. I don't want a 5th because you can only shoot one at a time. And I try to keep my collection pretty lean because once I have a gun, I want to upgrade it all the way, and it's a big fucking waste of money. But now that I've been keep looking at it, leave it in the corner, pick it up, kind of want to upgrade it again, kind of want to try the M14 again, but it's only good for making a DMR. It's just no one uses these anymore, and it really is an amazing platform and for airsoft purposes. These things rock. And in airsoft, it's not terribly heavy. It's a little heavier than AG for an M4, but not much. Real world M14, heavy as shit. God, they're heavy. I used to own a SOCOM 16 real steel. That thing was fucking heavy. I would not want to carry it any length of time or any distance. I should do an MSET in-depth episode on DMRs. Maybe we should. What do you think of point blank shooting rules? I don't understand. You mean like 0 med? A lot of places are going to if it's sub 400, there's no med, 400 FPS or what is that, 1.48 joules. There's no med for that. That doesn't bother me. If you're shooting above that, if you're shooting like 450, you need a med. You know, if airsoft BBs can embed themselves in skin, shoot through ears, you know, they're at close range. They are more dangerous than paintball. They can do some damage, and that's the problem. So I mean, if you want to be a tough guy, go do boxing, go do MMA. Airsoft is not the place to prove how tough you are. So yeah, I don't have a problem if it's sub 400. I prefer sub indoor. I think sub 300 is better. If you're going to do indoor CQB, I think sub 300 or sub 350, no med is fine. Sub 400 CQB is probably pushing it because you're just going to get hit a lot at those very close ranges. Whereas at an outdoor field or a mount, it's not as common to have close engagements like that. So sub 400 isn't such a big deal because it just doesn't happen as often. Same story with the LCT G3 mid caps don't work. Yeah, G3 is another one. That's a weapon from an era gone past. It's cool, but nobody has it. The M14 is not a version gearbox in the G&G M14. In the TM M14, it's a version 7. Okay, whatever. Version 7 gearbox. I still never worked on the damn thing. And having never worked on it, it was my best performing gun for many years, and I never had to touch it, which is crazy. You know, airsoft guns are unreliable until you find one that is, and they just run forever. If the person who owns my M14 is out there and wants to sell it, I got dibs on buying my veteran back. Last I saw it, it was in the hands of Corey. His call sign is Iceberg. He works at Inner 10 Gun Range. And yeah, you can look him up. See if you can get it back. He'll probably charge you a lot. Last I had it, it had a plastic stock that was painted tan and a SOCOM 16 shortened barrel. And I forget if I had a scope on it. I think I did have a scope. My team sniper uses a Cyma SVU. What is the Cyma SVU? You're going to have to forgive me because I'm going to have to Google it. Cyma SVU. What is this? Oh, a bullpup? Ugh. Bullpup. European gun. Trash. Sorry. But seriously, looks cool. It's funny that you mentioned this because there, for those of you playing at home, that's what I'm talking about here, that SVU. In that game I talked about earlier on Xbox, the Vigor is the game. I love this gun in Vigor, but it's a video game. God, I hate bullpups. But god damn it, now that I'm looking at it, I'm intrigued. Fuck. Sticking with my SR25. But that thing does look cool. Um, Not sure what kind of magazines it uses. You might have some magazine issues there. Anytime you get outside the norm of AK and M4 and airsoft, you're going to have parts issues. So thanks for showing me the Simon SVU. God damn it. I know I'm going to be looking that shit up later. Thinking about it. I destroyed the veteran. That veteran performed better in my hands than it ever did in yours, Whiskey. Oh, shit. Trash. Yeah. Bullpups are trash. Why the bullpup hate? Just getting into the guns myself, but to me, bullpups seem so unique. Are they unique? Are they effective? That's a good question. Why the bullpup hate? Boy, you're getting into a can of worms here. So, the good thing about a bullpup is that you get a lot of barrel in a shorter package because the barrel is obviously going further back in your shoulder because instead of the action being here on the gun, it's back here on the gun. So that's good. And that is the advantage, and that's why we like them because we got that longer barrel. With a longer barrel and real steel, with a longer barrel, you get higher muzzle velocity, and higher muzzle velocity equals to some degree accuracy and to a greater degree lethality at range. If that makes sense. The longer the longer distance the bullet can move faster, the more lethal it is. Okay, and then yeah, that's the short version. And the less steep the arc is, so there's less elevation changes at range and blah blah blah. We're getting kind of in the deep water, but longer barrel, good in real steel. The issue with them is that instead of reloading in front of your hand, in front of your face, you're reloading kind of in the pit of your armpit here, or in your where your bicep is. People can get good at it. I've heard that it's more difficult, but I know people say they train it and they get really good. So there's that. So is that a plus or a negative? I don't think it's ever going to be as quick as a reload that's right in front of you here to do it in here. I just don't see that being as quick. And whereas I reload a gun here, I can see what's going on around me, maintain my awareness. Down here, I don't see how I'm going to be able to keep looking up and having to do that. It doesn't make sense to me. One of the other issues is that it's more difficult to diagnose a malfunction with the weapon because the malfunction is back here instead of up here where I can just flip the gun over and see what the hell's going on. I can look in that chamber with like an AR and see what the hell's going on. AKs don't really malfunction, but neither here nor there. But it's harder to diagnose a malfunction. Huge issue is the trigger linkage because your trigger's here and the linkage has to come all the way back here. And that long linkage in the trigger makes for really shitty triggers in a real steel bullpup. They just feel crappy. Whereas in a traditional rifle with the magazine up here, it's the trigger is a lot better feeling. I've shot a lot of bullpups. I've never shot one that I thought the trigger made me happy. Every time I pulled the trigger, I was kind of like, ugh, that's shitty. So in short, that's why you get the bullpup hate. They're just, Europeans love them. So. Yes, longer barrel, shorter platform. If you imagine the bullpup rifle as a pistol and reload it like a pistol, it will come naturally to most shooters. I guess I could maybe see that. It just feels weird loading here. I don't know. The only cool bullpup is the L85, the British rifle. Some would disagree. That Tavor, that's a nasty gun. The Israelis did it right. That IWI Tavor, that's a great gun. I mean, if I was going to buy a bullpup, if you forced me to buy a bullpup, I'd buy a Tavor. That thing is the shit. Just a great performing gun. AUG, not really my thing. FAMAS is also another dead gun. It's over there with the M14. You just don't see them anymore. Another bad thing is if it goes kaboom in real life, then your face is right where you don't want it to be. Correct. Your face is right by the action, which is going to be bad when it blows up, as opposed to traditional rifles can be in front of you. They're just not my thing. Would you shoot the bullpup M82 50 cal for $100 real? I have shot a bullpup M82, so yeah. I got a photo of me. We had one on the team for a long time. Yeah, those are common, but that's a pretty unique gun. But it is common for those larger caliber sniper rifles to be loaded kind of in a bullpup fashion. And the trigger on that one is horrendous. So Israel makes some badass weapons. Yes, they do. If they paid you, they do pay me. They did pay me to shoot that gun, and it was brutal. It was a punishing gun to shoot. Theoretically, to qual on it, I had to shoot it 10 times every year, and we usually only shot it 3 or 4 because it just hurts. And if you're going to shoot a 50 cal at a range, you don't shoot paper because that's boring. You got to put shit out there. Like we one time we brought a Jeep Wrangler, or not a Wrangler, a Jeep Cherokee, and put it out on the range and just turned it and moved it and just kept taking pot shots at different part of the Jeep or the Jeep Cherokee to see where the 50 cal would punch through and where it wouldn't. And, you shoot, run down there, look at it, come back, shoot again. But every time we know it was only 100 yards, and there'd be the guy shooting and everybody else would be hiding behind a tree, because if that bullet hits something really hard and comes back at you, you don't want to be around. There's a lot of energy there. Funny you mentioned I'm just upgrading the spring of my L85 right now. Good on you. Yeah, the L85, I don't even know what company. I know ICS made one for years, but I don't know what airsoft company makes an L85 besides ICS right now. Maybe G&G makes one. I don't know. French forces are starting to transition into using HK416s instead of the FAMAS. Thank God. HK416, Heckler & Koch does not make a lot of bad shit. Most of the stuff they make is cool, is excellent. It's good stuff. I used to love HK416s. I thought they were the coolest thing in the world until I actually held one, and then I realized how much they suck. I was doing an operation with the ATF. It was a robbery operation. It was kind of cool. It's a joint operation. But our team was doing our part of it, and their team was there doing their part of it. And we had a brief, and we were hanging out. We were all geared up, and they have bigger budgets than our department, so they have cool shit. And they had HK416s. I'm like, oh man, that's awesome, HK416. That thing, yeah, those are cool. And he goes, you think so? I said, yeah, why not? And he goes, hold it. And the second I held it, I was like, oh, this is really heavy. It's really heavy. So HK416, cool, very heavy. So, and piston guns are less accurate, albeit only slightly, than direct gas impingement guns. But the weight sucks. But they're really easy to clean. So direct gas impingement kind of shits where it eats. So you got to clean them all the time, which sucks. But end of the day, I prefer my Daniel Defense Mark 18. Whiskey says Aries Star, whatever they're called now, makes apparently an L85, and G&G makes an L85. What do you, Jay Jasuta? Forgive me if I just murdered that name. What do you think about people running an M249 with an AR mag? It looks cool, but doesn't seem worth it since an M249 is heavy. I'm not really sure that. I mean, I think it's cool that you can run an M4 mag and an M249 just in case you run out of magazines and other people can help you out. I think that's a huge force multiplier. Not sure how much it comes up in an actual game, though. The drums are the way to go. I don't think it's cool if you're just running a 450 round high cap and you're using that instead of a drum. If you're going to run a saw in an airsoft game, you should be running a drum. If you're going to have that advantage, carry the weight. Because the newer ones, who makes the Shrike? The really small one. God damn, what the hell's wrong with me today? I can't remember anything. That thing is light. That gun is really light for a support gun. Heavier than an M4, but not nearly as heavy as the old school ones. The full length, M249s. Disagree on HK. Carried the HK45 for 7 years. Biggest piece of shit I've ever owned. Horrible trigger. Huge size. 10 round 45 magazine poly handgun. No, you can keep it. Yeah, that's a good point. But God, they make the MP5. The MP5's the shit. The UMP sucks though. everybody who says the UMP is the shit, the UMP is a specific weapon designed for a specific purpose, and it's not a sexy one. It's cheap and it's simple. And the thing breaks apart in like 3 parts. It's like a Glock. But I shot a UMP, an HK UMP, and I was not impressed with it. And the magazines are like this big, and there's no magazine pouch for them. And I hate the UMP. God, that thing sucks. Oh, you like the UMP? I think the MP5 is the shit, but sub guns are dead. Thoughts on airsoft sniping? Is it worth it in airsoft when there are AEGs that can push close to the same numbers? They can't push close to the same numbers. Jesus Christ, that's a big ball of wax there, brother. Where are we at? 1 hour and 15 minutes. Short version. I enjoy airsoft sniping. It is never as effective as a good AEG. Never will be, because airsoft is accuracy by volume. You're accurate. You can hit someone because you put a lot of BBs out there. You know, for every 10 BBs you throw out there, you might hit the guy 2 or 3 times. It is very inefficient to try to hit somebody with one shot, like sniper style. It just doesn't work. Having said that, I really enjoy doing it. It is challenging. It's very rewarding when you do it, but I'm not nearly as effective as I am with an AEG or, better yet, a DMR. I'm just not. It's not even close. Even with the added FPS bonus, it just doesn't give you. Do you have more range? Yes. Do you have more accuracy? Not really. The advancements in hop ups in the last 5 years, your hop up unit in your AEG is going to be as good as the one in your sniper rifle. So there's no big advantage there. Push close to the same numbers. I would challenge you to get a rangefinder. People tell me they got AEGs that can shoot 100 feet or 100 yards. I haven't found one yet. Get a rangefinder. They don't shoot as far as you think. Can you shoot somebody at 100 yards with a fire? You know, with the what's the joule limit for a sniper? Is it 2.8? Or no? Maybe it's 2.8 joules. Anyway, can you shoot those 100 yards, a well-tuned one? Yes, technically, but they're not terribly accurate at that range. I'm sure people get killed. I'm sure I've gotten kills with people with 100 yards with my sniper rifle, but it's just not very common. 75 to 80 yards, they're pretty damn accurate. 100 yards, that little bit further, because, you know, airsoft guns, they lose accuracy at the end of their range. Their accuracy just drops off. It's just shit. It'll be pretty tight for, 70% of their range, and that last little bit, it just goes to shit. Unlike real firearms where, there's a consistent drop. And, they lose some accuracy at range, but not as much. Airsoft guns absolutely go to shit. So people are more concerned with range, and they should be concerned with how accurate am I at that range. Just because you can hit something at 100 yards with your sniper rifle doesn't mean you should take that shot, because it's usually not giving up your worth giving up your position for such a low probability hit. AEGs can hit realistically 200 feet. I know people think they shoot farther, but they really don't. They're still 60 yards, 65, maybe 70 if you're arcing it in. Guys who think their AEGs can shoot 100 yards, and I hear it all the time. Oh, actually, no, you can't. No, you can't. So, but snipers do shoot farther. The question is it effective? No, it is not. Not compared to a good AEG. My team hates it when I pull out my sniper rifle. They're like, oh, crap, he's running a sniper. This is going to suck, because then they got to work harder. We all got to work harder because I'm using something that's not as effective. When I pull out my DMR, they're all happy because I can really hold down an area with the DMR, be effective. In real life or in airsoft for the 249? Talking about airsoft, I've never shot an M249 in real life. We don't have those in a law enforcement capacity. Wish we did. Probably don't need them, but machine guns are cool. Ares defense makes the Shrike in real life. Thank you, Whiskey. Love the umpire in front of you. I really like gas blowback. Just kind of sucks only shooting 30 to 40 rounds versus an AG. Oh, gas blowback, which means we're talking about gas blowback rifles, which I said we're not going to talk about anymore because we beat that dead horse. Always won. 90% of rounds are indented for suppression. Intended. I think you meant to say intended for suppression. Yeah. And I think real world, that's true too. I think real world, most of the bullets spent in a gunfight, I think studies have shown that most of the ammo spent in a gunfight is used in suppression, doesn't actually hit anything, which is one of the reasons the military switched from the 308 to the 5.56, because 308 is heavy, and carrying 300 rounds of 308 is a nightmare. You can't do it. It's too heavy unless you're just a big, strong son of a bitch. Whereas carrying 300 rounds of 5.56 is relatively easy. It's much lighter. It's a third the weight. Is the best defense a good offense? Keep them as far away as possible, or can you draw them in kill zones? Enemy adapts to our tactics quickly. Maybe save drawing them in for later. Let's see here. That's a tactics question, and it's a good one. Is the best defense a good offense? It depends. Keeping them far away as possible. Yes, keeping people far away from a place you're defending is a good idea. I've done videos on it. Having a mobile defense, starting far away from what you're defending, get some kills, drop back, get some kills, drop back, and draw them in. That is a good idea. Is that offense? Not really. That is just using all the land at your disposal, all the area at your disposal to defend. If you're going to defend something, I try not to defend it at that point. I try to get out and use my area. As far as a good offense, it can be very effective to have a small group go around and flank the enemy if you have the space and harass their flanks. But I would make that a small element, not a large element. Your main element should be defending what you're defending. But yeah, a small element harassing can really slow that attacking unit down, the attacking team, because all of a sudden they have to think about their flanks. You can actually pull away a lot of them, because if you harass them and drop back, they'll try to chase that guy, and they'll lose a lot of their forces chasing a guy that's totally irrelevant. So I absolutely believe in that. I call it active defense. I think I did a video on it. But yeah, if you can draw them away, but that shouldn't be your main element. But yeah, defending from a given location, like they did it that last op we did 2 weeks ago. They went 50 yards out. It was their orders and defend this town. It was a bad idea. It didn't work. My buddy has used the M249 extensively in real life, said he would take anything over them. Finicky guns and not easily cleaned, and with many, many breakages in the belt. Never used one. I still think machine guns are cool. Would love to shoot them. I mean, I guess technically on SWAT I have a machine gun, but it's a Mark 18. But it does have select fire, full auto, which is cool. But it's not a saw, I mean, when you have a sort of defense line, and watching all the places where they can't sneak through is good. I always have a problem with someone not watching an entrance and we get flanked. Agreed. You got to watch those exposures. Whiskey. Thoughts on plate carrier rules where people with plate carriers and realistic-ish training plates can get revived twice by a medic? I was just watching something on that the other day with Milsim West. I like it. And I like it because it encourages people to carry the weight. I think should be advantages for that. It encourages people to, you want to do Milsim, right? I mean, you want to simulate shit. Put on the weight, because I can tell you, training in real plates sucks. Wearing real plates, wearing real helmets, even helmets are much lighter nowadays. My Team Windy helmet that I wear at work, I don't wear a helmet when I play airsoft because wearing helmets sucks. My Team Windy helmet is very, very comfortable. I still hate to wear it all day. It's not cool. The plates that we wear now, the polyurethane plates, are awesome. They're really light. Still don't enjoy wearing them all day. I prefer not to. So if you're willing to carry the weight, I think there should be an advantage. I like that they just don't say if you get hit in the plate, you don't have to call it, because that's a fucking nightmare. Being able to be medic the second time, Yeah, it's a little bonus. It's a small bonus for wearing the plates. Is it worth the bonus? Probably. Would I do it? Yeah, I'd wear them, but I have poly plates that aren't terribly heavy. They're more uncomfortable because they're inflexible than the actual weight. But in my airsoft vests, I wear soft plates just because I have an extra set and it fills up the space. And I like getting a little bit of the PT training of having a little more weight in that vest. Not so much that I want to run the plates though. Anybody that wears AR 500 plates is an idiot. AR 500 is great in a range when you shoot it. You know, like I should have an AR 500 silhouette sitting at the end of my range and I can shoot it and it goes ting. I don't wear that on my body because that's stupid because it's fucking heavy. And polyurethane plates, the prices come down quite a bit. Well, before the price of everything went back up because politics. But yeah, polyurethane is the way to go for plates. AR 500 is stupid. And when I hear people talk about, ceramic plates, I'm like, what is it, 1993? Jesus Christ. Those things are horrible. Fuck, those are heavy. Those are really heavy. And they don't work on multiple impacts. So, tactics over tools, unless you've got a PKM, that tool is powerful. I'm not familiar with PK. I know what a PKM is. I've never shot one. So, Kobe, I would never play without a helmet because I play on a hill with an old bunker from the 1 and 2 World War where you can fall in holes everywhere. Yeah. Helmets and airsoft are good for, impact injuries, hitting your head on a branch. I still don't think they're worth it. At all. Like at all. The only time I might wear a helmet is in like a CQB field, but even then, I think I'm just gonna wear a hat and just hope for the best. I mean, those headshots they do sting like a son of a bitch. But when you're wearing a helmet, so the main thing that you're gonna peek out with, is obviously your weapon, your muzzle's got to come out there, your gun hand's got to come around the cover, and your head's got to come around the cover because you got to see what you're shooting at. And so your main target is your head, and you're making that main target bigger by putting a helmet on it. So you're just kind of doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion. And in woodland, that's the first thing you see every time. I don't care what you put on that helmet, what kind of coverage you put on it. You're still going to spot it. So it's real easy to spot those. I honestly like the lightweight, no plate look, just running a chest rig in real life, though. It'd probably be a different story. Not necessarily. Yes, lightweight, no plate look is better for a lot of stuff. Chest rigs, I run chest rigs when it gets real hot. There's operations that I've worked professionally where people go with the light armor just because it's hot and we're doing it all day and you just don't wear the plates. Armor's heavy, and depending on what you're doing, it might not be worth it to run armor. It'll save you from the bullet that may or may not come, but if you can't complete your mission because you're so weighted down, it's not helping you anymore. Poly plates, help a brother out. Still rocking ceramic. Oh God, you're running ceramics. Jesus, that's trash. Yeah, get some polys. Hell, I got a poly plate I can give you. It's not shooter's cut though. It's a perfect square. Miserable. Love this channel. Thank you. 14 pounds of police bit will stop grandpa with an AP 30-06. That is true. But if you're getting shot at with an AP 30-06, it's probably meant to be. That's a wrap, son. It's probably just meant to be. Okay, that is close to an hour and a half. I covered just about everything I want to talk about tonight. I didn't get to fitness and airsoft, but we'll leave that for another chat, maybe in a few weeks. And maybe we'll cover DMRs later in a few weeks. So I'm going to cut this later and try to make it a little prettier and tell everybody what we talked about at each given spot. Thanks for joining me tonight. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Please, if you got some video, some gameplay video, and you want to, have a critique, send it to me. To critique, I'll take a look at it at gunfathermilsim@gmail.com. Kind of pimp my patches, buy patches. I don't make any money on it, but it spreads the word, and I appreciate that. Cool live stream. Thank you. Cold approaches on potential fields. We'll do cold approaches on potential fields on the next live stream. That's a tough one. Or it's actually a long subject. I hope I have night shift again next live stream. Hope I have night shift again. Oh, obviously you're at work and you can watch this at work. Cool. Yeah, I sometimes have that myself. So thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate it. And have a good night. Peace and cheers.